Micheal Cohen just published a new book, Revenge, How Donald Trump Weaponized the U.S. Department of Justice Against His Critics. And, you know, I did these little book reports, the 6-minute book reports we run at the top of the hour because our commercial stations are running the news during that time, and we've got to have something for our non-commercial stations. And I read his book and read the the introductory chapter as our book report, and it provoked a number of questions for me. I wanted to get him on and ask him, and sure enough, here he is, Micheal Cohen, the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller Disloyal, his new book Revenge. Micheal, welcome back to the program. It's great having you with us again.
Thanks, Tom. Actually, since I've seen you last, it's now number 8 on the New York Times bestsellers list.
God bless you.
So I am now a 2-time. I'll tell you, my English teacher in 5th grade never would have expected this one.
Yeah, well, I think you done good here. I should add your Twitter handle is Micheal Cohen 212 and Revenge the book, revenge-thebook.com, the website. But Micheal, before I get into the specific question that I had for you or have for you, I'm just curious your take on what's going on with Donald Trump. It sure looks to me like he's going down in flames. This morning we had the controller of the corporation testify that Trump was in on the tax avoidance scheme, which is a major tax fraud felony. And although this is a non-criminal trial, and him and DeSantis are going at it, and we just learned at 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, he tried to get people on the streets of Detroit to yell and scream about voter fraud, and literally nobody showed up. I think he's toast. What say you?
Okay, so we have to break that down because it's a multi-part question. So we'll first talk about the case that's going on now at the New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office. That was a case that I had provided approximately 100 hours of testimony, as well as thousands of pages of documents.
That's a criminal case, right?
No, that's the civil case.
Oh, okay.
That's the Alvin Bragg. I apologize. You're right. That's the criminal case. The civil case is the Tish James case. He's got so much litigation, you almost, I know, even I get confused. So yes, this is the criminal case. However, I was dealing with the district attorney's office. Literally, when I was even in Otisville, they came up to see me 3 times there. And that would be Carrie Dunn and then ultimately Mark Pomerantz, the 2 attorneys that resigned in protest because Alvin Bragg didn't bring the indictment as against Donald Trump, but instead brought it against the Trump organization, which in fact he inherited from our predecessor, District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr.
Right.
I've spoken to a dozen attorneys. Now, I'm not a criminal defense attorney, and my knowledge onto it, while I would say is probably better than some, it's not as good as all. One of the things that I don't understand is how could Alan Weisselberg testify as to what was going on at the Trump organization, of course, Trump's eponymous company, when in fact, it's not going to create a legal issue for Donald himself personally as the president and CEO. And to be honest with you, and I'm talking to people who are practicing criminal law for 3 decades, none of them could give me an answer that made any sense at all.
Well, it's like nobody wants to touch that. It's like a third rail kind of thing. Everybody's afraid of taking on Trump directly, it appears to me.
No, not everybody, my friend. You still have Tish James that's taking him on civilly, that's going to put the company into a death spiral. But I believe Alvin Bragg will ultimately have no choice but to file an indictment, a criminal indictment against Donald, as well as potentially his 3 children.
Do you think the DOJ is doing this too?
I know for a fact that the Attorney General's case was passed to the Southern District of New York, as well as the Internal Revenue Service for tax evasion. Again, her case is civil, but it is operating in tandem to the district attorney's case. This is a very complex case, one that I don't think anybody has ever seen before. So we're all sitting with bated breath.
Yeah. So when I said is Donald Trump toast, really what I was thinking was more political than legal.
Yeah, so let's talk about political here. Well, one of the things that I've often stated is that Donald Trump tends to act in a very similar manner. It's why I've been so successful in gauging what he's going to do and forecasting things that he hasn't done yet. Obviously, I'm not Nostradamus, but because I know the man as well as I do, I'm able to forecast and prognosticate. in this specific case, he realizes he's got big troubles. He set up last night a function at Mar-a-Lago whereby his goal was to take credit for all of the success that the Republicans were expected to have, the big red wave. Sadly for him, the big red wave never came. And while things are still tenuous for the Democrats and potentially still going to provide the House as well as the Senate to Republicans, it's not anywhere near what was expected, nor is Donald able to take advantage of the credit that he wanted for the red wave. That being said, I believe that he jumped the shark when it comes to discussing his potential presidential run on either the 14th or the 15th. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. I think he's, politically speaking, dead man walking, but, we'll see. The specific question that I wanted to get you on about it, reading your book, I'm just getting, more and more furious. Having had back, when I was 16, I was out in East Lansing at MSU with Students for Democratic Society and got arrested and thrown into jail. And I still have flashbacks to that. That was scary as hell. And you write about, breaking into cold sweat. You say, do you have nightmares about FBI agents raiding your home, searching your furniture, going through your closets, ripping through your clothes, including your daughter's underwear drawer, and leaving with box loads of your belongings? Have you ever feared that the President of the United States wants you dead? And you call on the first page of your book, you call out the illegal actions of the FBI, the Southern District of New York's U.S. Attorney's Office, and Bill Barr. And you've named a couple of other people in here, quite specifically, Adam Pakula and Enid Phoebus. Has anybody? I mean, you were treated wrong? I mean, in my humble opinion,
to say the least.
And is anybody going to be held accountable for any of this?
Well, right now, as you may be aware, I filed an action. It's Micheal Cohen versus the United States of America, the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prisons, along with about 10 other individuals, including Donald Trump and Bill Barr. We are now currently awaiting for a decision by the judge as to whether or not the case is going to move forward. We believe that it will. I mean, we have a federal court judge, Alvin K. Hellerstein, who stated that this is an unconstitutional remand by the president and by Bill Barr, by the United States against a United States citizen, basically, making me into the first political prisoner held by my own country because I refuse to waive my First Amendment constitutional rights.
Right.
So one of the things that you find, Tom, and the book was very difficult for me to write. I want to be very honest with you. It brought back a slew of emotion. The PTSD, of course, was then enhanced on something that, of course, you're aware of when you were at MSU. It's very painful. It's not just painful to you personally, but it's painful to see what happens to your family and to lose your family's happiness, forgetting about all of the finances and the money. It's really your family's happiness as well as your freedom. It's a terrible thing. And one of the things that you find for people who have been wrong, and wronged so egregiously by the system that's really supposed to be designed to protect you, is you become an activist. And that's really what I'm trying to become, whether it's through my podcast, Mea Culpa, whether it's through Revenge or Disloyal, or all my appearances on television. I want to become an activist for several different things. First and foremost, it's judicial reform and prison reform. These are real serious problems that we have in this country.
Yeah.
Now, if I just start with, for example, the reform on our judicial system, my biggest fear is that this will happen again. And I kind of tried to lay the book out to be a blueprint for everyone to read so that you understand what an autocratic fascist like Donald Trump, how easy it is for him or somebody like him, a Donald Trump 2.0, to weaponize the United States Department of Justice to go against their critics.
Well, this is what Ron DeSantis just did down in Florida, creating his election police force, arresting 15 black people and parading them in front of the cameras 2 months before the election, and now we see the black vote in Florida crashing.
Yeah. Look, Ron DeSantis is a whole nother Donald Trump 2.0.
Yeah.
I think he's slicker than Donald. I think he's clearly much brighter than Donald. And I think that he will ultimately be the Republican nominee. I think Donald Trump shot himself in the foot, or as we used to like to say, people in our generation, Tom, right? He jumped the shark.
Yeah.
He should not have done what he had done. He should not have announced that he was going to be doing something the 14th and 15th. That's all part of his great financial grift. That's all that it's about. But again, I go back to Revenge because I believe it's a book that everyone must read. And
I agree.
The reason why I say that they must read it is because as the activist, my biggest fear, I don't want anyone to go through the pain that I and my family had gone through as a direct result of the weaponization of the Justice Department to silence.
And this was for you're delivering a check to Stormy Daniels in part, on behalf of Donald Trump. I mean, the crime that you went to jail for was on behalf of Trump. It's just, it's breathtaking. Michael, we just have 30 seconds left.
Yes, but Tom, I don't think that's really what the whole thing is about. What ended up happening is it was Stormy Daniels that I did do, but the other 7 charges that was thrown at me by the Southern District of New York, I did not commit. And I laid that out, not just by me, but by former federal agents, by judges, by former prosecutors, by a slew of people, which is why it's so important, because if what happened by the Justice Department could happen to me with my microphone, with my closeness and proximity to government and power, think about what they could do to you, Tom. Think about what they could do to anyone.
Yep.
And my goal is to ensure that what happened to me never, ever, ever happens to anyone ever again.
Yeah, I have been on the receiving end of what I considered political persecution, along with 12 friends of mine. And so have you. Micheal Cohen, the book is Revenge. Get it, buy it, and read it. Michael, thank you for dropping by today.
Good to see you, Tom.
Good talking with you. We'll be right back. 18 minutes past the hour.